a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
If everybody would everybody like to take their seat for just a second, or we're going to get started? I'd like to call this exchange to order, and if you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everybody to the fall session. It's been a while since we've done this, so it's kind of nice to see a big crowd here today. I'm Dale Lair, President of the 2022 Board of Directors. This meeting is audio and video recorded by RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there will be no recording of this meeting by any individual. And if you could please be so kind as to take your phones out, any electronic devices, and just put them on silent mode. I'll try to remember to tell you to turn them back on at the end of the meeting. I would like to introduce our Board of Directors. Director Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Director Fimmel. Good morning. Director McAdam.
Good morning.
Treasurer Akins.
Good morning.
Vice President Egge.
Good morning.
Mr. Lanevsky isn't here. Director Nowakowski.
Good morning.
And Director Wilson.
Good morning.
Management staff present today: Bill Cook, our General Manager.
Good morning, everybody.
Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance.
Morning.
Jo Lynn Higgins, Communication and RCSC Marketing Coordinator.
Good morning.
Marcia Johnson, our Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
And Teresa Sorino, Director of Events and Entertainment. She's in the upstairs booth.
Mike Whitford's here too, Dale.
Oh, and Mike. You snuck in right at the end.
And Chris. And Dale. Chris.
Oh, and Chris, I'm getting there. Okay. I'd also like to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Mike Crawford, audio-visual engineers. And additional individuals here from management are Mike Dearmeyer, Director of Bowling, Polly Corsino, Sun City Visitor Center and Marketing Manager, and Chris Lynham, Pro Shop Manager.
Good morning.
I said Jolene. No problems. Okay. One thing I would like to, did I get everybody? Hopefully. Yes, thank you. Okay. Before we start, obviously we have a format change, and I want to just speak to that a little bit. We decided to go from the Word document that we had up on the screen to an Excel document. There's a couple reasons. It was getting to be really lengthy and difficult to send out to members, and we thought this would allow us to get the information more concise and out to membership a little faster. Other changes from input from everyone is we now have 2 microphones in front and 1 with a podium. And we've also put the board and management on the floor. This is still a work in progress, so this might change. The last change that I've made is just to talk about courtesy as far as time goes. You know, being respectful of others. When you get up to speak, you know, the time you take to share your ideas, it's your meeting. You have, you know, all the time you need, except we've had a problem at one of the last meetings where someone got up and talked for about 30 minutes and was really repeating themselves. So I would ask that everybody try to get give any speaker at least 5 to 7 minutes so that they can get their thoughts across. And then, after that, they can go on as long as they want, as long as it's new information. But if it starts to get too long and they're repeating, I did put a bell in the back on the table, and it's your meeting. So if you feel you've had enough and you want it, you ring the bell, because I'm not gonna stop anybody. That's up to you. Okay, our first, and it's not the Dong Show. It's just a way to keep things moving. Our first item of business is to provide you with updates regarding past topics and items of interest. I hope you've picked up the packet in the back of the room that kind of shows you, what we're going to be talking about today. And to start with, I'd like to have Bill Cook present some of the updates regarding the annual membership meeting.
Thank you, President Lair. Can everybody hear me?
Nope.
Now? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I want to give everybody an update with respect to the proxy process. So the annual membership meeting is November 1st at 9 a.m. here. So it will basically be, the 90-10 rule this year is that the proxy process will be the same as it was last year. However, we're going to make it easier, so we're going to have the forms, the signature forms, the process form, as well as the actual proxy form itself available online so that you can download it from the website. So just to briefly kind of go through the process. So of course, anybody who's gathering proxies must be a member in good standing throughout the time that you are collecting proxies through the actual date of the membership meeting. The same holds true for anybody who is giving you their proxy. All information on the proxy form must be accurate and filled out completely, just like last year. Signatures cannot be obtained on RCSC property per policy. Original forms must be turned into the corporate office 10 business days prior to the annual membership meeting date. So any turned in later than that will be null and void. Last year there was quite a few that we received, as you guys know, and so it takes quite a bit of time and effort from staff to make sure that all of the proxies are legitimate. So we want to make sure that we get enough time to do that. Okay. Only our proxy forms can be used. Only proxies with live signatures, just the same as last year. Only validated proxies can be voted, and the proxy form must be signed by whoever is collecting the proxies and turned into the corporate office. So it's, again, no different. So here's the form that you have to sign with all of the procedures on it as the proxy gatherer, and then anybody who has or who is giving their proxy to any other member, it's the same form as last year, okay? So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier with the ability to be able to download the form. That's all, President Lair.
Okay, does management have any other updates?
Do you want me to give the parking, or we're going to go through the agenda, I suppose? So you're not talking about anything that's on the item list, right?
Yeah, the parking isn't really on, oh, yes, it is. Never mind. Okay.
So, no, there's nothing else.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to bring Jerry Walczak up. He's a member of the Elections Committee, and he would like to present the voting procedure for the annual membership meeting. Jerry, would you, please come forward. And then if you could flip the mic over so you're addressing the audience. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. My name is Jerry Walczak. I am on the Elections Committee, and I've been asked to read the procedures for the annual meeting. Mr. Cook covered some of these points, but I have 14 points here to go over. Number one, all individuals wishing to attend the annual meeting will be checked in and verified to be in good standing. Those determined to not be in good standing will not be allowed to enter the meeting. Number two, every member who has obtained proxies will be given a card with the number of verified proxies that this member is eligible to vote. Number 3, once the meeting starts, start time has been reached, a quorum will be determined by the RCSC staff, and the status will be relayed to the board secretary. Once the secretary is notified of the quorum status, the meeting will be called to order by the board president, and the board president will then ask the board secretary for the quorum status. If it has been attained, the meeting will commence. However, if the quorum has not been reached, the board president will end the meeting at that point. If the quorum is established, the meeting commences and the published agenda will be addressed. When the meeting agenda motions are addressed, the board president will call upon any member who has made a motion to publicly read the motion. After the motion is read, the board president will call for a vote on the motion by the membership. The board president will then call for members in favor of the motion to stand. At that time, all members that are standing will be counted, and members with proxies will be displayed, will display their proxy card given to them at the time that they checked in. Those members that are standing will continue to do so until members of the election committee have counted all those who have voted in favor of the motion. Number 11, the election committee will then relay the number of votes that were counted and present. Present this number to the board secretary. The board president will then ask the secretary for the vote in favor of the motion and whether the number of votes represents a majority of the members in attendance, including the proxies. The board will then take into account the results of the membership voting when considering the next motion on the table and then follow the same steps as I have already mentioned. This will be done for all motions on the published agenda. Once all motions have been voted, the remainder of the meeting agenda will be completed. That is all I have on this. Any questions on any of this?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
The bylaws state that Article 4, Section 5, that all votes are required to be taken by ballot.
Can I speak to this?
Doesn't say written ballot.
Yes. What we're going to do is, because it's a large group of people, if it's really obvious with standing votes, we're not going to do the ballot. If it looks like it's close and it's not sure, we will have ballots there to do it.
I understand that, but it's still violating your own bylaws. Unless you eliminate that bylaw.
Well, maybe we will have to do that. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. All right. Oh,
I actually have a question about that.
sure. Director McAdam.
So I think, Jerry, I think you said as one of your final points that the board will take. Speak up. So there we go. Jerry, I think you said as one of your latter points that the board would take into consideration the vote results. Do we understand, do we all have a common understanding about what that actually means?
Well, would you like to explain that further? Do you understand what that means?
I don't believe I do.
Okay. I'll be happy to answer that question. Basically, any motions that are passed, this is the same thing that we did last year. Any motions that are passed will be recommendations to the board, and the board will then take a look at them and act on them. If for some reason they don't choose not to act on a motion, and the membership feels very strongly about it, then they can follow the procedure for a special meeting of the membership. Is that clear? Okay. Thank you.
Question now, sir.
Okay.
They need to come up to the microphone.
You got to come up to the microphone. I'm sorry.
Mike Wendell. You say a special meeting could be called if you didn't go for it, but we had a general meeting. Why would a special meeting be necessary if you decide not to follow what people vote on? I mean, it's a general meeting. It's the annual meeting. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, what the procedure is we're trying to, I mean, what you don't want to happen, and it's really for the protection of the members, what you don't want to happen is to have a group come in, and it's happened in the past when they come in with 300 and some proxies, and they make a decision to, let's say, close all golf courses. You know, and the people that happen to be there that day say yes, and now that's automatically law. It pushes it to the next level of importance so that all members will know that these were passed and presented to the board. If they're not acted upon, I think that gives the people in the golf, I'm using that as the example, to come forward and say, now wait a minute, we didn't go to the meeting, but we do not agree with. So it's kind of a check and balance situation, and that's why it's the way it is, okay?
There's a question.
Somebody's coming from the audience.
Jean Totten. I have two questions.
Speak up, Jean.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Cook, when you mentioned the proxy process, when the people sign, the day that they sign that proxy, how long is that proxy good for?
It is good through that meeting. It expires after the meeting is over.
I thought at one time it was good for 90 days.
No, it is good through that meeting.
Okay. And regarding the bylaws or the other process that we're talking about, aren't we putting the cart before the horse since we have an ad hoc bylaw committee charged with changing, revising, et cetera, the bylaws? They might have changed that process that you're talking about.
Well,
Hopefully.
you have a very good point. But the bylaws, even though they might have changed things or proposed changes, until they're voted on and put into action as current, it's nothing more that they're still working on that.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so I don't see that the bylaw changes are going to be in effect prior to we have to do something now. People are clamoring for information, so we're working with what we have now. Things may change. I don't know.
Well, I think
Things may change, but we have to have a process in place now because you and other people are asking very specific questions about the voting, about the proxies. This is why we did this, so that everybody understands there's no surprises at the meeting. Now, if things change, things change.
You know, it may help you out a little bit. You've been harping on us about transparency. So what we're trying to do right now is being transparent. We're letting you know if this is what's in progress, this is what we're doing. If it changes, then we'll also let you know that. But if we don't tell you anything, you say, well, you're not telling us anything, you're not being very transparent. Well, right now we're trying to be. And the minute we try to be transparent, the first thing you do is question that. So, I mean, we can't win for losing here. We're trying to tell you this is what we're working on, this is how it is so far right now. It's not cut in stone just yet until you get the bylaws results.
Thank you. But if the, I think it was quite evident from last year's meeting that many of the members were taken aback, did not realize the process that's in the bylaws that says that before anything can be done, you, the board, has the right to investigate or check into the motions that were made. I have a feeling most everyone that was probably at that meeting would like that gone from the bylaws. And so, like I say, I'm just wondering when the bylaws are ready, and I know he's not here today, so I can't ask for an update, although we do have a co-chair. Are we getting close to being ready? Are we members going to be allowed to see these before you adopt them? Wouldn't the annual membership meeting, where you have a large group of people here that are members that are interested, wouldn't that be the time to put those new bylaws out so people could voice their opinion on them and discuss it? Isn't that what a membership meeting is all about?
Well, and Kat, if you have anything to...
I don't want to put,
No, what I'm going to say is, here's the deal. If the bylaws committee brings everything forward, they've got all their Ts crossed and their Is dotted, and we're ready to roll, I personally would not wait till the membership meeting to act on that. So I think I'm trying to do this in a timely fashion, so when we get the go, and I think what we're looking at is things are looking pretty good. So we're even planning that in September, after the membership or our board meeting, that we're going to have a planning session. Now, that's preliminary, it's not published yet, but that's kind of the plan, that they're that far along that we're looking at that. And at that point, all members will be getting the bylaw changes or the suggested bylaws, and it will be presented by the committee to the board so that they have time to look at it. It wouldn't even be up for a vote until the end of October. Okay?
and then where would that vote take place? At just a regular board meeting?
Correct.
You don't need you don't need something like that at an annual membership meeting where there's a,
Well, we can't act on it at the annual membership meeting. I mean, we certainly could make that the planning session. I'm not sure that's the appropriate use for that, but members will have an opportunity to comment just like any other motion that's on the agenda.
so I just want to make sure I understood you correctly then. Before the board votes one way or the other on what the ad hoc committee has presented, the membership will see those bylaws and have a chance to
Oh,
comment.
absolutely. You know, Ms. Stoughton, it's the same as it is for everything else. Every time there's a motion, you are made aware of it 10 days, I think it's 10 days before, and you have an opportunity to speak to that motion at the board meeting. This is no different.
Yes, Madam President, we do, but usually what happens is you let us all speak, and then you go ahead and vote.
Of course, that's what the board meeting is.
Yes.
Yes.
And hopefully, after listening to what we have to say, you'll take that into
Absolutely.
consideration
That's
when you
all
vote.
part of, that's why we opened it up to comments.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I want to follow up on my earlier question, President Lair. You said the idea of if someone came up and we were going to close all the golf courses, you know, that doesn't make sense. And the reason for that is the motions will be on an agenda, and they will be published at least 10 days in advance, whatever it is says in the bylaws. So if those people don't show up, and there's only 300 people here, and they do see, oh, we want to close all the golf courses, that's their fault. There's enough people to override that and say, no, don't close my golf course, they'll show up just for that. So that doesn't make sense, the idea of if you don't take action on a motion, if the motion's on the agenda and we vote for it, and people have seen it, and people have an opportunity to come to the meeting if they really disagree with it, I think you should be bound by that vote. You shouldn't be saying, oh, well, we can go back and we can go through the process of getting enough votes and proxies and things to have a special meeting. That's not right. If it's on the agenda, we get to vote on it. If it passes, it passes. If it fails, it fails. I don't think what you're saying about a special meeting makes sense at all and shouldn't be.
Okay, well, I appreciate your opinion, but we are looking at it as a check and balance. But thank you very much.
I'm going to keep pushing, Joe Broush, 115997. I'm going to keep pushing Mike's point. specifically, it is a check. It's the same check that you guys use when you have board meetings. You publish the agenda 10 days before, and that's the only check you guys ever need. It's the only check that the membership should ever need. So do you have any other reason other than that it's a check?
Well, if you look back at how our normal business flows, a motion is made. Generally, there are at least 2 readings of that motion. That gives, we get to hear what people have to say, then we get the reaction from the rest of the people who maybe weren't present, and then we have a second vote. Now, occasionally, we'll forego the second reading only because of time or whatever, but that's rare. And that's a check and balance as well. And it's a check
And that's
for...
a check that's written into the bylaws.
Exactly.
There is no check for that written for the membership meeting.
Well, legally, you have to check legal.
I'm just,
We have to check with our attorney to make sure that what you want done is going to be legal. And we don't have him on call, so every time we contact him, we have to pay for that. So, to be careful how many times we do contact him. So some of the times, we go back and we have time to contact him because he's not just sitting there waiting for us to call him. He's got other clients, too.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with you contacting. Anybody here have a problem with them contacting the lawyer to get this clarified? Thank you.
That's what we do.
That's fine.
That's part of the check and balance.
So I think you're saying you want the check, and you use that example, what you don't want to happen. Okay, I think one of the things that we also don't want to happen is that for the membership to want something, and whatever it is, close a golf course, change a quorum, whatever it is, for us to present that, for us to show up in numbers like 1,400, right, votes and say, yes, we want this done, and then to have it disappear into no man's land, which is what's happening. And you can tell me it's not. You can tell me the committee's working. You can tell me you're considering it, but we have nothing to show for it.
well,
It's been 9 months since we made that, since the membership spoke up and said, yes, we want that.
and we are acting on...
I know you're acting on it.
But
You're
here's
telling
the-
me you're acting on it.
Well, sir, please.
I'm not, Right.
Come on, do you understand the magnitude of the project to review and rewrite those bylaws? Huge. They were huge.
I
And
understand that.
1,000 hours at least put into this.
I understand you
And by-
chose to do that.
No, I think the member,
No, the membership chose 5 motions,
Okay,
which you were supposed to consider and get back to us, which you haven't done. I understand they're in committee. I understand
Okay.
that the committee's closed.
Okay,
I'm
I
just
think-
stating the facts that you haven't gotten back to us in 9 months.
okay.
And there's nothing in there that says you have to get back to us in a certain amount of time,
Well,
correct?
and I'm sorry that that's the way you feel. I respect your opinion, but I think I think we need to move on if possible,
Thank you.
unless you have something new.
President Blair, may I interject?
Yes.
It does say that we have to get back to the membership by the next membership meeting.
Yeah, next year.
That's what it says in the
And that's my point, next year. You talk about 2 readings for normal board meetings, so we know that next board meeting is going to be a month away, and it's going to come up again. So people that see how it came out on the first reading have 30 days at least to come back and try and do something, say something about it at a member exchange in between, because there's one of those in between the next meeting. But in this case, you're saying we need a check and balance. That means, well, it's another year. Or we have to go through the same hoop, going out, getting all the same signatures again, all the things we need to have a special meeting. So if you want a second reading, so to speak, then you need to make the proxies live for at least 60 days or something afterwards and allow for a second meeting to be scheduled, if that's the case. Not just go off and say, it says by the next annual meeting. That's where everything fell apart last year. First, we didn't really get to vote. Second, this time the items are going to be on the agenda, from what you've said. And if we vote for it, and you're telling us our vote matters, it should pass. And if it requires a second reading and there's a controversy, then schedule that next annual meeting, whatever it is in there, and let the proxies still be alive and let other people come and attend if you think that's going to change something in your checks and balances. Because if it's on there and it's extreme and someone says, I want a motion to close all the golf courses, boy, people are going to show up. You won't have room in this place, I figure, when you get all the golfers or something like that. There are some things. They'll just come just for that. You come and you say, I want to double the rec fee. People will fill this room. You know, there are some things people will get up and say, I'm coming. And you won't be able to handle the amount of people in the room. So that extreme doesn't make sense. And if you want a second reading, you have to provide that, because it's not good enough, I think, in the opinion of everybody here, to say, oh, we'll wait another year. We've waited a year on the last meeting.
Okay, before we go on, this is not open mic time, so unless,
I want to comment on the same issue.
okay. We haven't done the agenda items yet, okay? Go ahead.
This exact thing happened probably 20, 25 years ago. And it dealt with closing a golf course. Okay, and what this gentleman just said held true. It was held over at Lakeview. All of those meeting partitions were opened. It overwhelmed that. They couldn't fit all the people into the room, okay? People were standing outside, and the decision was defeated to close the golf course, and this involved Quail Run, because they could not find where that dedicated deed by Del Webb to the RCSC existed, that those golf courses would be there in perpetuity. So if something like this comes up, whether it's a golf course or something else, the magnitude of this thing, the people will show up. And of course, at that time it was defeated and they did not close the golf course. So the history is there. You can go back and look it up.
Okay, still on the same topic?
I have a suggestion. What we're talking about here is an interpretation of the bylaws. One bylaw says that the members, when establishing a quorum, can vote and decide on appropriate business. If it's allowed in the articles or by Arizona law. I can't change that. That's the bylaw. The other bylaw says that when a recommendation is made by the members, it's taken to study, the board can act on it, and if they don't act on it, you can go by petition and get 10% of the people to try to override what the board said. Get a second opinion. Get a qualified lawyer to say which one prevails. And by qualified and by second opinion, I mean somebody that looks at it for the first time, not somebody that's been here for 35 years.
Okay, before,
It's not going to be quick.
I shouldn't have taken any comments till we started the agenda, I'm sorry.
First of all, I don't believe you can take a second bite out of the apple. Once the votes are taken at a membership meeting, those votes are valid, number one. Number two, I think you can resolve this issue is if you go to page 1 of the bylaws and where it has definitions, define what affairs of a corporation is. I agree that we shouldn't be involved with building maintenances and landscapes and staff things. That is affairs of the corporation, facility maintenance. But bylaws are affairs of the members. And I think that if what we want, and it says it in all the articles, I can name you all the articles of incorporation that tell you about how the members can vote, I think that's where you need to go. Change the definition of affairs of the corporation.
Okay. You know, and again, it just want to reiterate, thank you very much for your input, but that ad hoc committee is made up of members. They've spent a great deal of time about going through and revising to the best of their ability. We have to give them an opportunity to present what that group has thought is important. So, you know, and hopefully, like I said, we're looking at the September meeting. If I could just move on to our planned agenda real quick. Okay.
Actually, I do have one further question. Do we know with certainty which bylaws will be in effect on November 1st?
No, absolutely not.
We haven't got the results yet.
It hasn't even come forward yet. So no.
No, but I'm
That's why
saying
we're
that these are the bylaws that are going to govern the way that meeting takes place on November 1st. Is there a possibility?
As of today.
Is there a possibility that the new bylaws could be passed and a second motion, a second reading of it would be foregone, and new bylaws would be in effect for a meeting that takes place 3 days later that we don't even know what they are? Is that a possibility?
Well, yes, to be honest with you, it is a possibility, but I would say that any prudent member of this board would not forego a second reading on something this important that we need input from the membership on. I think that would be a terrible idea.
So in
And
other
I would
words,
vote no for that.
In other words, we're willing to guarantee the membership that the bylaws that will govern that meeting on November 1st are the current bylaws.
Can't guarantee anything.
I can't guarantee anything, but I'm telling you, if it came up for a vote, let's say in October, to forego the second reading, I, for one, would vote no. So
Madam
it's,
President,
yes.
there has to be a second reading because these folks need an opportunity, once they receive it, to review it and comment to it.
Exactly, exactly. I don't think a prudent member of this board would forego the second reading. That's why we're talking about what the rules are as of today. Now, they may change, we don't know, but that's the way we're talking about it. And I know there's a lot of, Mike, please.
This is our meeting. You've made that statement enough times. This is our meeting, and you don't get to drive on to the next item. I've only been up for a couple of times, but my point is, I appreciate hearing some discussion about this because you brought up two things: the annual meeting, and you brought up how the proxies are handled, and then it's come down to this idea of if we pass a motion on the agenda, that it still goes back to you. And at the moment, the current frame of thought is it could take a year until the next meeting before it comes, unless we jump through major hoops to bring it back up in a second special meeting. And that's where I think it differs, but I appreciate hearing the conversation because I get to see where people stand regarding this. And I think if you want that second reading, like I said, there's another way to do it. I think people will accept the fact that at least there's a form, it's clear about the proxies, but the fact the proxies die right at that meeting, and then it can go back into that limbo for another year, up to a year, till the next annual meeting, that's wrong. That's what screwed things up last year.
Somebody's ringing the bell.
So.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry that we got all very good information, but there should be somewhat of a format. And, I wanted to bring input from management if possible, and then we have our topics. And when we're finished with all these topics and you get the input from the past, then we're going to bring forward new ideas and suggestions and comments. So to speak to that, the first thing on our page here is the marquees, and I'm going to ask Director Nowakowski to just give us an update on what's happening with that.
I guess I have a tough act to follow here and try to say something that's reasonable. The ASU contract has been signed, awarded and signed. They have started the work on the project.
Director Nowakowski. Director Nowakowski.
Yes,
That's
but
the
the
survey.
marquees are, we're waiting for input from.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I
I'm gonna
apologize,
pass that
Director.
on.
If I could, if
Yeah.
I could just interrupt. So, I don't think this is on. Nope, there we go. So the contract negotiations are complete, but it has not been signed. So I did have an email exchange last week with the professor who's leading the effort, and he's trying to get signatures on their side, but hopefully we get them this week is what I'm hoping, and then we can start on the ASU project. So thank you, Director Nowakowski.
Okay, and just to clarify, because I got a lot of people looking at me, is we are working with ASU to find out, from a marketing standpoint, what is our best approach. So that's part of the work that's involved with this, whether we want to go with the original Fun City or we want to do the City of Volunteers. It's all, we get input from all the members. So that's where that sits, just to make everybody clear so we don't have a lot of questions. Okay, next item on the agenda is Duffy Land.
Yes. President Lair, yes, members. So our Director of Operations, Chris Herring, actually has come up with I think, a very good solution circumventing the issue with getting electrical over to Duffy Land. So we've installed locks that require fobs for entrance, and they've been installed. Fobs will be distributed starting, I believe, not this week, but the following week. And so once that happens, then we will then turn the locks on, and it will be timed so that, when it's opening, the locks will be available with the fobs. And so access will be controlled to those with fobs only. So hopefully this will help us with making sure that, non-members are not, entering the park, and that only our membership and their guests are allowed to use the park.
Thank you. The next item is Best Friends Dog Club. Is somebody here to? Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. I hope you all had a nice little break or took time to catch up on your workload. We've had many hot days to work on a business plan as our board pups stared at us. And we're now happy to present the business plan, which is set in front of you, to facilitate our request for an indoor climate-controlled dog training / socialization facility to RCSC Board and Management. When last we spoke, we talked about the fact that for every agility class, we must bring out the heavy, cumbersome equipment, carry it across the sidewalk into the training yard, assemble it, and set it up. At the end of the training day, we break it all down and carry it back into the storage room. And this process is all handled by our senior club members. Because this process is so labor-intensive, we limit our agility classes to 1 day per week. Teresa, can you start the, oh, you have it up. All right, as you can see from the videos and pictures, even early in the day, we're setting up and training in the hot sun. Because we're outdoors, there are distractions like emergency and other loud vehicles, and even the emptying of the dumpster located right next to our training yard. It's impossible to hear the instructor, and we often have to stop class. Plus, it's very disruptive to the dogs. There wouldn't be as many disruptions in an indoor dog training facility. You'll also notice that the equipment is spaced very closely together because of the size of the current training yard. This is definitely a safety issue. On a standard agility course, which you can see on the right there, the obstacles would be 10 to 20 feet apart. Then there's a matter of the sidewalk, and that was shown in the first slide. That bisects the training area. RCSC card holders regularly use this sidewalk to enter and exit the building during our classes, which is disruptive to the training process and also creates a contact hazard when the dogs have to be moved out of the way quickly to let people pass. Even though we have large signs posted at both ends of the walkway asking people not to interrupt the class, they often do so. In one instant, card holders actually walked through our training yard when there were dogs being trained off-leash to access the building. This represents numerous safety hazards to the dogs, to the handlers, and to the trespassers. Consequently, we're now forced to keep perimeter gates locked. Again, this would be solved with an indoor training facility. We have two, and this is in a further picture, we have two staging or waiting areas, neither of which are protected from the sun. One has a drop-down shade that provides some relief, but not enough for everyone to sit in the shade. The other area has no shade in the direct sunlight. All of the issues mentioned make our conditions not only difficult, but quite frankly, unacceptable for our dogs and our members. In summary, we're asking for an indoor climate-controlled facility where our agility equipment can be left out at all times, and which also includes a separate training area for our other classes. It should also include two waiting observation areas, an area for dog crates and training equipment, office supplies and storage, a meeting seminar area, an indoor bathroom area for members, and an outdoor potty area for dogs. An indoor walking track around the interior perimeter of the building is a necessity during the dog days of summer and cold winter days, too. We look forward to working with the RCSC to achieve this goal. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have it in place by our 30th anniversary this upcoming April? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is transparency. Does anybody on the board want to talk about this? We've talked about all the financials, committee reports, board of directors meetings are videotaped, member exchange, management reports, annual budget, PIF. We're trying, even in this exchange, to bring ideas, things that come in, comments, questions, like the voting procedure, the proxy procedure, forward at the exchange so that people have more information. So hopefully we've covered this. Next item is parking. Bill.
Thank you, President Lair. So actually, our staff went out to the facilities to actually do a physical hand count of all of our facilities. I will preface this by saying that the numbers that we looked at were those associated with an analysis that was done, I want to say 10 years ago, with respect to putting the Performing Arts Center at one of our facilities by utilizing the parking space at those facilities. So Oakmont and Fairway are not on this, but I can get those numbers for you, and I'll get those updated. But Marinette currently has 211 spaces, Bell has 781, Sundial has 497, Grand has 181, Lakeview 564, Mountain View 250, and the Sun Bowl has a capacity of 518 spaces. So those are the numbers at the facilities in terms of parking. Thank you, President Lair.
Thank you. Okay, the last item on the list is regarding time limits. I've already discussed that, so we're going to open up the floor. Please come up with any ideas, suggestions.
John Bramer, 80514. I have several issues for you to consider. Seeing as budget time is coming up pretty quick, some things that have been requested in the past, or a couple of new things. The first item I have is for the Vintage Vehicles Club and the Bell Metal Club, both of which revolve around air compressors that both of these clubs have. This equipment really needs to be enclosed. These are air-cooled compressors, like your old gasoline lawnmower was air-cooled. And especially at Bell, the amount of dirt that is generated in the back end of that club because of all the grinding of metal and whatnot, the fins on these air compressors essentially get blocked, and it just causes the oil that's in there to lose its viscosity, and they burn up. These are kind of pricey items, and of course the club buys them, but then they belong to the RCSC. So the clubs would like to have these compressors covered and enclosed, and it would be fairly easy to put a hole in the wall, and Bell Metal already has that, blows air from the inside of the building to the compressor area. Vintage Vehicles does not have that, and the roof that was put over the compressor is totally inadequate to protect it from the environment. So those are two clubs that need to have this done in order to preserve this equipment. Other than that, I would like to talk a little bit about safety and health. Recently, you published this flyer, okay, which deals with how senior citizens should take care of themselves in hot weather. And you have this already, and attached is the flyer put out by Arizona Department of Health Services, and your flyer essentially echoes that. So environmental control for senior citizens is extremely critical. And without going into detail, we now have in the Vintage Vehicles Club instrumentation to record temperature and humidity. And without going into the detail and trying to read all this information and get people to understand what it means, because we'll all be late for lunch if I do, I have the data here for a period of time. It's not all here. Some of it is, it really wasn't necessary to present that much. We have it available for you if you'd like to have it. But in the original concept, air conditioning was requested for the club. But when it came to the time to have the architect do this, I believe Chris Herring was the one that crossed that out. So here we have this magnificent facility, which we really thank you for, and it's a great facility, but it's essentially uninhabitable in the summertime, especially in the afternoons. The evap coolers will not function when it gets too hot outside and the humidity is high. So in order to be able to interpret the information I have here, I've attached a chart that shows when environmental or evap coolers will function the way they're supposed to, or what you want them to do, but we're operating outside the limits of the equipment. So
I would love to take the information from you. Thank you.
You can see if I tried to explain all this.
Oh, yeah.
We'd be here all afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much. So just to be clear, your suggestion is to go with air conditioning at the vintage vehicles. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Air conditioning is really needed. Evap coolers can be used for part of the year, but there are times when evap coolers just will not function, and right now, we just can't use the facility in the afternoons most of the time. It's just not, it's a health issue. We've had 2 heart attacks and 1 stroke. And if you look at all the information on this flyer, which you put out, it says people over 65 shouldn't be in these environments. So that takes care of most of us. We do have some younger people. So we would appreciate your consideration of putting air in there. People say, well, you open the doors and all the cold air falls out, because we have large doors on there. But those doors open probably, I would guess, a maximum of 6 times a day, and they're closed immediately. A monitor that's working in there has to be the one to open the doors and close them. The vehicle comes in and the doors are closed. There's thousands of warehouses all over this country where forklifts are driving in and out all the time. And they control that by having split vinyl curtains in front of all, and the forklifts can drive right through them. We could do that, but I think because we have a controlled situation, it's really not necessary, and it's an added expense. But it would help save. But for the minimum amount of time that those doors are open, it's probably not necessary, but it is an option. And there's a lot of other things that we could do relative to the air conditioning. But again, for your consideration, if you'd like to talk about it further, we'd be glad to talk to whomever needs the information.
And I'll share this information with the rest of the board so everybody has it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair? Question? More of staff than the clubs. Have the clubs requested the covers for the air conditioners at both locations in our process of requesting things from clubs?
They have, and as I mentioned earlier, the Bell Metal Club already has a roof over there. I was one of the people involved in installing that roof probably 25 or 30 years ago. But nowadays, clubs can't do that anymore. We used to just go to the general manager and say, here's what we want to do, here's how we want to do it, and he'd either say yes or no. So we got the okay on putting that roof on, and we did it. Didn't cost the RCSC anything because we had the material available in the shop to do it. But we have requested, to have these things enclosed in order to preserve the equipment.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Do we have any historical record of why air conditioning was scratched from that building in the first place?
I don't.
We do not. I mean, one of the people here dealt with, I was not involved after the initial concept was made. I was involved in the initial concept, but after that, I was not included in the committee that put forth the plans, and which were later modified by Chris Herring, and I don't know if anybody else was involved or not. It's really necessary to have air conditioning in this environment, and to build a magnificent facility like we have, which we're really grateful for, and not put in air is beyond my comprehension.
Well, thank you, John. I guess my question was actually more directed to the management team. Do we have an explanation of why that decision was made?
So, Director McAdam, my understanding is that there was a change requested to install 16-foot doors, rolling doors, and at that point, based on that fact and the raising of the height of the roof, et cetera, from a cost perspective, moving forward in terms of operational, it did not make sense. I was not involved with that at the time, but that was the decision, is because of those 16-foot doors and I believe the cost associated with that to maintain.
Okay, any, oh, I'm sorry.
So originally, the plan was for 8-foot doors? Is that, I just want to make sure I understand that.
Director Collins, I'm not sure. I wasn't part of it.
You know, John?
In the beginning, after the modifications were done, they went in for 10-foot doors. 10-foot doors do not allow the entry of many of the vehicles that the members would want to work on. It was all framed up and finished and ready for the doors. 10-foot doors are not a standard door, so they had to be custom made, and they were. Well, we found out that these were only going to be 10-foot doors, and we went back and we said, this is not going to accommodate many of the members that want to bring vehicles in because the vehicles are too tall. 20-foot doors, or whatever they are now, are a standard issue. So all that building construction had to be torn out, and it had to be redone. I think it was like $160,000 in extra cost to be able to put these doors in, but they were. So, and my measurements might not be exact, but that's where it was.
If I may, I participated in the meeting with Troy and the architect, and what had happened is, looking at the original plan, the eave height of the building wasn't high enough to get the motorhomes in, so the decision was made to raise the ceiling, as Mr. Cook said. So there's 20 moving pieces to this. In the meeting with the architect, we discussed raising the eave height, so the sides of the building, right? And at that point in time, the decision was made, obviously, to put in a standard 16 by 16 roll-up door. The way the drawing set on the table, it was only 10 feet high. What ended up happening is, and again, this was just an oversight, and again, this is the advantage now of having Mr. Whiproot here to prevent these things moving forward. When the architect raised the roof, he didn't modify the drawing to reflect the 16-foot high doors. So the building was actually constructed to the original door height of 10 feet. So there was a big giant discussion going on, what do we do? And I don't want to get into the weeds too far here, but basically there was a discussion with Jan Eck to say, we've spent the money to raise the roof, and now we have a building you can't even get a bread truck into. So Jan was nice enough to get with Chris Herring and make the decision to pay quite a bit of money to modify the door, because the contractor didn't screw up. He built the way the drawings were. So part of what I think Mr. Cook is referring to is all of a sudden there was these extra costs to go in and repair the 3 doors. So, and I don't know, and again, back to Mr. Whiprud, moving forward, where we can have a better design review process to catch things or have discussions about things like the evaporative air conditioners. So, and I've had this discussion with some of the management, because you've got milling machines, you've got cars in there that don't do well in super humid environments. I mean, you can literally start having problems with every machine in the building, a lot of your tooling and stuff that are not conducive to.
Well, the other thing is with evap coolers, and I've dealt with evap coolers most of my life.
Okay.
If they're not serviced regularly,
Oh, yeah, right.
okay, it makes a huge difference also. How often are those coolers on that building serviced? Anybody know?
We have them on a preventative maintenance list. I think it's 6 months. We go up there. My guy Tyler was up there recently noting a roof issue. So yes, we do service the evap coolers, which have been in for a year, basically.
Okay, well, I used to have a home repair and business, remodeling business. I serviced evap coolers all the time, and if you don't service them on a 3-month basis, they're not efficient. So one other thing we'd like to consider also is sound attenuation in that building. You can't talk on your phone to anybody if you're in that building and you get a phone call. The noises just will not, you can't talk on a phone. Sound attenuation is something that's very simple and relatively inexpensive. And I'd like you can just consider looking at doing that. And if you need any input on it, let me know. One of the things I did in my life when I was in the workaday world was design and build industrial plants. So I have some information for you if you'd like it.
Okay, anybody else like to come forward with a comment?
Hello, Dan Braddock, 132389. Good morning. Most of you on the board know me as the past president of the Sun City Senior Softball Club, but today I'm speaking to you on behalf of the current president, Ron Koppas, who's up in Michigan. First of all, the softball club is extremely grateful to the board and to the RCSC management for all the decisions that you have made for the improvement of the field and the club overall. I just want to say thanks to the RCSC and to the management. But the main reason I'm here this morning is to ask about the 2022 PIF budget. The softball clubhouse is included in this budget, and I've been asked by some of our membership when this is going to happen. There's just a few months left in the year. In fact, this is a good time. Some of our membership is attending this meeting over there.
Hello.
So the last question would be, would the board or RCSC management happen to know when the starting date or completion date is for the softball clubhouse?
Sure. Hello. Work is underway in design on the softball storage facility and clubhouse. We've had some challenges based on some of the things operations wants included in the building for security and door safety. So we're in the midst of the design process. I believe I spoke with Mr. Koppas thinking we could get the batting cage and storage facility up and running fairly quickly, but due to the issues with safety and security and the need to link it electronically with a conduit where the electrical source is down at the current clubhouse, those two projects are inextricably tied together now. So it's a technical challenge and we're fighting through it. But the project is going on.
And the bottom line is that we want to do this right. Right? We could have just dropped in 4 walls and you could have had your storage facility with your, your pitching cage area. But why do that and then have to have any rework going down the road to try and implement security? I think our decision from an operational perspective to ensure that your new pitching machine and any equipment you store there is protected. We know that there's an issue there. So we are putting in the infrastructure to make sure that that happens. So it's just like any other project. Anybody who's a project manager in here, things develop, and so you have to work around those. And so that's what we're doing. So is it going to be done in 2022? It won't. But will it be done in 2023? I believe that's what our goal. I don't want to talk for you, but that's our goal, is to get it done in 2023.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill. Mike? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm Dennis Robbins. I'm part of the softball community. Brothers and sisters are sitting behind me back here. Last time I was here was 2 years ago. Spoke before the board. May remember it, maybe not. At that time, softball was classified as a contact sport. If you all shake your head yes, remember we had a great conversation. Mm-hmm. The board supported us. We did some COVID things and we got rocking and rolling, and I really appreciate the exchange, the positive input from Chris Herring and others on his staff. Moving forward, Chris's team did an infield upgrade to the softball field. As many of you know, we commingle with Sun City West. They play here, we play there. That way our numbers are like 500, 600, okay? The beauty in that is that the people from Liberty Field, when they come over here from Sun City West, they go, wow. The infield, the outfield is spectacular. We love playing on your field. That's awesome, because they have an artificial turf field over there. And a lot of people played college ball, high school ball. Guys like me haven't played for a lot of years, and we're back into it. Our field is one of the best, the infield. That comment stops at the chain link, because once you get on the other side of the chain link, now we're talking about the clubhouse. Mm-hmm. The clubhouse, a little bit more background. Last year we had 4 break-ins. We lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $20,000 worth of pitching machines, softballs, bases, all that kind of stuff. We worked again with Chris Herring, and Chris gave us some space at another facility a long way away. We've made that work. I appreciate the comment in regard to your dealing with security and those kinds of things, because that's paramount on our list. If you went to our clubhouse right now, which has the 4-block walls and that kind of stuff, and you opened the door in there, you'd jump back and go, holy cow, can you guys get any more stuff in here? You got a pitching machine, you got a watering system, hoses and that kind of stuff. You got cabinets, you got all that kind of stuff. And every time we play, we pull that out, we move it over here so that we can get the rest of the things going and that kind of stuff. Why do we do that? Well, there was 2 wood buildings put in there a couple years ago. That's what the thieves broke into. So basically what we're putting in there is lime to line the fields and that kind of stuff, okay? It's basically used for anything that nobody wants to steal, okay? That is a sad testament, and my challenge to this board, that is a sad testament to a problem that's been going on over a year. Mm-hmm. Now, our membership, we've said, hey, we'll come in here, we'll help give money to do the the pitching machine area and a storage area that Mr. Cook was talking about. We're ready to help fix the problem. But if we wait another year, I don't know what else is going to be stolen in that time. If you people have went to ball games down there, you'll see that we have a batting area out in right field. Batting area. Batting tee. A couple high dollar mats that we put up that guys hit the softballs into, okay? That way you can practice a little bit before the game. We bought them used from D-Bats, if you all know where D-Bats is at, over at 91st and Thunderbird. Last month, those really nice mats, and they're secured by anchors and screws. It's almost like I did it, huh? There was 2 of them there. One was stolen last month by a homeless person who went up there, cut it down, and used it for their mattress, okay? That's the kind of thing that you guys need to understand in terms of details, what we do every single day of the week, trying to make sure that we've got stuff secured by putting it in the clubhouse and pulling it back out, okay? It's kind of like your garage. You park your car in your garage for safety, right? Well, we put all our equipment in there for safety. We need your help, okay? Pushing this out to 2023, okay, gives another opportunity for about 7 or 8 months for them to break into the clubhouse somehow. There's no alarms and there's no security systems on the clubhouse today, but it has some special kinds of doors on there. The bathrooms are there. So I just implore you guys to get together, work with Mr. Wybrup, right? Did I say it right? Wibbert? See, I was close. And Mr. Cook, and see what you can do to help us out. I mean, we're finishing up our summer session. I'm one of those idiots that played softball all summer long and loved it. So appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Ben Roloff, 12663. I don't come with an agenda of my own or for any club. I do, I think, kind of represent perhaps an unofficial and unorganized club called the Members of the Rec Center of Sun City. Several things. I've often stopped in and talked to you about some of the historical perspective. Today is no exception. Although the first item that I would like to address is really recent history, and that's the last membership meeting. There were many of us here who left that meeting not terribly unhappy, maybe even more surprised than unhappy. Because we came down that day with the idea of letting us show the board how we felt about some of the bylaws. And I was one of those people who came and presented 2 of those 5 bylaw proposed changes. I would have never guessed in a million years, knowing about Sun City's history and the board's history, of having not only member meetings, but for most of our history, having them 4 times a year, every quarter. And at every one of those meetings, there were votes taken on any number of subjects. And sometimes they were actually put into policy. On a couple of occasions, affected eventually changes to the Articles of Incorporation, multi-bylaw changes. I certainly, at the least, expected that at that meeting last year, that we would have an opportunity to take a vote here, fully knowing that that vote only went back to the board as the advice of the assembly here, how we felt. And not to be allowed that was really disappointing. And I share with some of that the disappointment of not at least having some indication of where any of those 5 proposals are. I know that maybe next month or so,
End of the month.
End of the month of this month, we'll get some indication. But that was not done well. So I was very happy. I feel better today that I heard you took tasked the Elections Committee with setting up some voting procedures. And that if we do have a meeting on November 1st, it's possible that we're going to actually be able to vote on something. And that there's a procedure in place to do that. That's some progress. So I feel good about that.
Good.
There's something I don't feel good about, and that was it came out of that same report. And that was the report about, I think it was number 38 or something, that proxies cannot be signed on RCSC property. I doubt whether there's anyone besides myself who knows why that is in your documents. It had absolutely nothing to do with membership meetings or votes or anything of that sort. It all had to do with Prop 8 in California that froze the property taxes over there a whole bunch of years ago. And there was a whole large group of people who belonged to the same political party in Sun City who decided that would be a really good thing for Arizona to freeze property tax. How about we start the movement here in Sun City? And they came to the board and asked, can we set up tables to gather Prop 8 for Arizona on rec center property so we can deliver those down to the state legislature, get it on the ballot for the next, and the board said yes. And so the process started, and the next month the board said, no, we're not supposed to be involved in the political process. We need to rescind that provision, and we need to modify our documents to prohibit signing on RCSC property. That's where it came from. Can you imagine that? It had nothing nefarious or threatening about proxies being used in membership meetings. So could we maybe have another look at that someday and see if we really want to continue that process or not? There had to be an exception made, and the only reason, it took a lot of years, and that was to allow board candidates as an exception. And that took 15 years to get that far. That's crazy. The last thing I might mention.
Okay.
If you want to ring the bell, go ahead. I can. Anyone? Ed, you want to ring the bell? Go for it. The elections. We're going to have our board elections coming up fairly soon. I was on the Elections Committee for many years and served, and for years we were chagrined about the lack of participation in elections. And so we kept coming to the board asking, could we please vote electronically? Could we please look at that? And it took a lot of patience to get it, and the board finally did it, but they went a little overboard, something we never asked for. And that was to conduct the longest elections electronically in the history of the world, which we do for our board. And we did it without explanation, and it's been in place ever since. Maybe that could be also looked at when you're looking at documents. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you.
Ben? Okay, just hold tight, because I think, that's something that's in the bylaws. They looked at everything. So the jury's out on that one, but show up on the 29th. There you go.
Good morning. I'll take a minute here. I'm looking for a clarification. Perhaps I believe the director of bowling is here. My wife and I signed up to bowl in no taps. We went to the first meeting, and there were more people that wanted to bowl than they had room for, which, okay. But we found out, my wife and I were bumped by non-RCS members, which I thought, well, after I went home, I thought about it, and I thought, as a member, I should have priority. And we also found out that the reason they're quite a few non-members signing up for these leagues it's a good deal. They pay less, they only have to pay like less than $2 more than a member. So I guess I'm asking for clarification. Is there a policy that members should come first, or just first come, first serve? Any feedback on that?
Yeah, am I on? Whoa. Sorry. We are going through, bowling is going through an unprecedented resurgence. So you should not have been bumped. We are here for the membership first. So I apologize to you. I will go back and we will take a look at that. League bowling as we know it has slowly been dropping, but the sport is being consumed differently, and people are coming back in droves, and we're trying to manage through the process. I apologize to you for that. We're actually developing more and more of these programs, so there's going to be more opportunity to bowl in them, and I got to go back and take a look at that. I didn't know that happened.
I appreciate it, and I thank you for your time there.
Can we,
Mike, I can also, if I could add, we're also raising, oh, I'm sorry.
can we get his name?
Oh.
Sir, could you give us your name, please?
We're raising price too, right?
My name is Ed Lenhart, Lenhart. My wife and I both signed up, and again, I was just looking for clarification.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the other thing that occurred during COVID. Our pricing structure has fallen behind what the industry has done. So the people are coming here because we're cheaper. We are addressing that, and we are making increases to guests. Guests are getting a higher increase than a member is.
All right, again, I appreciate you looking into it.
No problem.
Tom Marone, 101000825. In regards to these 14 points on the voting on the election committee, now, I've been on the election committee for close to 3 years, and we haven't had a meeting in over 2 months. So I'm just kind of curious as to who, how, when, where, and why how these 14 points were decided, because I wasn't involved. Fair question?
Sure, I can answer that.
Okay.
We got some emails over the summer about the process. There was a lot of interest by certain members about the proxy process, the voting process. There was a lot of confusion last year about whether there was voting or no voting. So Bill Cook and I sat down and came up with what we thought should be the process. We wanted to get it, and here's the problem. I asked Jerry, I went over it with Jerry as a member of the elections committee, if he would present it. Rather than wait till our meeting is not till the end of the month. Originally, that's what we were going to do, but people are clamoring. You know, it's like they're so nervous that somehow we're going to do something that's not right, that, you know, we made the choice to get it, you know, run through Jerry, let's present it, to give it out to everybody so everybody's got it and has an opportunity to talk about it. Now, that's the long and the short of it, to be really honest with you, why it happened and the way it happened.
Sherry Guido, 151324. I have a comment/question about the bylaws. I can imagine that the committee is meeting and diligently going over with a fine-tooth comb every single bylaw to try and make it as best as possible. You cannot please everybody. So my question, that low, huh? Okay, all right. So my question is, they get all finished and they present the bylaws, which we've all been waiting for. I think there's going to be a large group of people that are not going to be happy with this piece, that piece, and the other piece. So how are these bylaws going to be voted on and approved? Are they going to be then given to us to comment on each line item? Or is it going to be, here's the slate, the board is going to decide, you know, vote, and it's either going to be all or nothing, and we end up with the same. So that's my question, is how is this going to be presented, and how is it going to be voted on?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. It's going to be presented, first of all, in a planning session so that you can get all the detail and the thought behind how everything was rolled out. And Kat, jump in anytime, because she's the co-chair, and the chair of the ad hoc committee is not here today. So, but anyway, now how the board, what motions are made, we don't know that yet. That's all the process. Members will have opportunity for input. You're going to have the October meeting, you're going to have the exchange in October, and then also in November. And then finally, the last, when we vote on it the last time, would probably be the end of November. But so lots of opportunity for input, and I think it's such a huge document to go over. And I know one of the complaints were early on, and I'm not quite sure what they've done, but that there were a lot of things, there were so many pages. So I think they're trying to slim it up a little bit, but that's all yet to be seen. So all I can tell you is everybody's asking themselves the same thing. I would hope that we can come to some consensus. There may be some amendments to things at the board meeting. If we can pass it as a whole, would be wonderful, with maybe a few little tweaks. And then the board always has, over forever and ever, the opportunity to make some changes to it. But with all the time and effort that went through it, I think we owe this committee of members the opportunity to present it and give us the rationale and the reasons why they did what they did. And we don't know that yet.
And that's why I commented earlier that it's not very likely that this will be a one and done. I mean, there's going to be a planning session. All of the committee members will be there. They'll have an opportunity to make comments and to maybe talk a little bit about the process. And we did go through the bylaws with literally a fine-tooth comb. I will tell you that a lot of work went into this. I think that you were well represented by the committee members, and I think that that some of the things that you talked about today will have been addressed, and I don't want to go any further into that. I want them to have an opportunity at the planning session to tell you how it went, what was developed. I can also probably say that largely consensus of the committee was achieved. There were some sticking points that I think have been worked out, and I think you may be a little bit surprised what you find when you come to the planning session. So,
thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to add, you know, the ad hoc committee was closed to the general membership, which, for all the debating that had to go on, I think it's probably a good thing. I, for one, as the president of the board, did not attend a single meeting. And I did that deliberately because I didn't want to have any influence or show any bias for anything. So I just stayed totally out of it, and I let the committee members do their thing. So we will all be looking forward to it. Anything else?
Good morning. I hope you all had a great break, and I want to thank you, excuse me, for adding the member board exchange document to our website. It was very helpful to have it, and I look forward to seeing it updated. And I hope that we will do that with perhaps some of the other things that were brought up today in paper. Maybe the presentation by the Best Friends Dog Club could go up for a short period of time. You gave information on, I'm drawing a blank. You had a sheet up there, parking spaces, if that could be put up, so that anything that comes out of our exchange, it would be great to have it on the website. I do have two quick questions. no one else has asked, so maybe I can't. I did miss one meeting, so maybe this was discussed then. Under the completed section, you have that you're going to consider soundproofing ways if the pickleball courts go to Lakeview, and it says completed. I am not aware of what the soundproofing development, what you came up with, or is that still in, I mean, is it completed?
Didn't they put some kind of screens or something?
So we're still in the detailed design phase of that. So we know that is a a requirement and a request. So I believe the height of the wall and as well or of the fencing, as well as their soundproofing material that can be added. Mike, you can certainly add to that if you want.
Yeah, I would say the action item is completed because we are going to integrate soundproofing into the concept of the requirements to the architect, which have not really begun in earnest yet, but we're working with them. Okay?
All right.
The perimeter walls, chain link fencing is going to be 10 feet high per recommendation of pickleball club and the designers that we've talked to. So you'll have 10-foot high perimeter chain link, but it's going to have this material on it. It's going to be sound dampening and should help the adjacent hill and park lagoons and all that next door.
Thank you. And if I missed that, it may have been mentioned at the last meeting. I apologize. The other item was marked completed, and I just thought I'd make sure it is. Changing the time of several board meetings, perhaps from early morning to afternoon or evening. It was marked, we'll consider for the fall, and then completed. So this is going to be something coming up, or have you discussed it?
Boy, no, I know, yes, we did discuss it. Okay. Do I remember what our rationale was for that? I think we decided not to do it because we have done it in the past, and we've always had one in the evening, but it wasn't well attended. Help me, when we had our discussions. Yes, we did discuss it at a...
Did you have the discussion at your planning session?
Yeah.
So everyone was there?
I can put it back on again, then we can talk about it, but I'm pretty sure we went through it.
Because we've done it in the past and it didn't change the attendance. It didn't get more people in.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure it was indeed completed. And then, if I could, we've talked about elections, we've talked about proxies, bylaws. We all know that it's a very important time coming up. And I'd just like to go on record that I'm a little concerned that management chose mid-September to begin the process of launching a new web portal for members. I'm excited and eager for any changes that will enhance the website or our experience on it. But I'm wondering if perhaps it should have waited until after the election. We don't need any, I'm sorry, I can't help but echo nationwide comments about fraud or elections not being done correctly. There are a lot of older people. Now, I don't know how many people get the email blasts, how many people actually pick up a SunViews. I mentioned this to someone who keeps track of RCSC business, and they said they hadn't heard about it. And so I'm just concerned that some of the elderly, some of the people, it might be hard for them to understand the new changes. I don't know if they're going to be just, real simple, and it mentioned that staff would be available to answer questions and help. Maybe the computer club could also answer questions if a lot of questions come in. Maybe we need to send someone to some of the members' homes to show them, or have a teaching session. I don't know how difficult the process is going to be. I just know how people react to change. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, if there's, no?
Mike Wendell, again. On Jean's comment about the portal, I read the email. I went out and looked. My understanding, and I have an IT background, is you're really only changing the part where you schedule tea times, you schedule things where it's the interactive part. You're not changing the website. And if that's wrong, correct me. So the website's going to basically be the same. It's that portal part where you log in, you can pay your monthly, your annual dues, you know, the assessment and that. So am I correct on that?
I believe so.
Okay. So the website's going to be the same. My other comment, totally different from all of this, is it's coming into what I'll call budget season. It's time for looking at next year's annual budget. We got a history of having an overage of typically $1 million every year, and there seem to be a lot of little details and things that just aren't being taken care of. In a budget process, what really tends to stick is what's the bottom number? We calculated, we got this much revenue coming in from assessments, a variety of things, and the bottom number's it, and you try to estimate out where the money's going to be spent. And it's a guide, it's not a law, it's not a rule that says you can't go over your budget. It's a matter of you have to discuss it, you have to figure out, I'm not going to spend as much over here, but I can use that money to fix something over here in another section. And that doesn't seem to be happening, at least from my perspective, and I think it's something that now at the end of the year, I hope we don't see another $1 million not spent that has been allocated to keep this place in top-notch condition. And it's not about trying to achieve perfection and say, oh, well, we're going to replace this thing in a few years, so we don't need to fix it now. Fix it. We're using it. People are doing things. Spend the money. Don't just put it in a pocket over here and say, boy, didn't I do a good job? I didn't spend our whole budget. The budget should be used effectively, and that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I could address that, please. Mr. Wendell, members, so yes, typically we do have, we come in with an excess. I look at that as fiscal responsibility. We have a repair and maintenance budget that, and we've actually, in the last 3 years, we increased that to make sure that we do preventative maintenance versus, reactive where something breaks and we have to fix it. And I think that's been very successful in doing that. So we've increased our operational budget over the last 3 years, and I can't tell you the percentage, but we do that. Now, I think from an overall perspective on projects where, for example, I'm looking at lakes maintenance, Mike is, and working with Porter, our contractor, has done a great job to try and keep us below what we thought we were going to be at. And so those savings, and I've pushed back on my staff, we actually track this as a KPI to try and negotiate and reduce our costs when we're negotiating contracts. So the savings comes from that as well. So we're trying to be fiscally responsible. We're not putting anything in our left pocket. Okay, we're trying to do things fiscally responsibly, and if we go over budget, I can't spend it. I have to get board approval. If something goes over budget, it has to go through the board, and anything at $25,000 or more has to go through the bid commission. So we have, checks and balances where I'm not, or any of my staff can go through and spend whatever they want. So I hope you guys see that we're trying to spend your money effectively, and I think you're going to see in this next budget process that we're going to do some things. Please be patient, and that will be presented here hopefully by October, November, right? Late October. Thank you.
And just a quick, I'd like to just make a quick shout out to Mike Woodprude, because he's come on board and has put together a really good preventative maintenance program, which we never had. And the cost savings and the efficiency because of that is tremendous. So that's one of those things, management, you don't hear about. It's not glamorous, there's no grand opening, but it's important. So good job, Mike. Really appreciate it. Okay, the next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on September 29th, 2022 at 9 a.m. right here in the Sundial Auditorium. It's not published yet, but I'm going to let you know. Keep your eyes open. We're hoping to have the planning session for the bylaws immediately following that meeting. The next exchange will be on October 10th, right here, 2022. And just as a quick reminder for everyone, please don't forget to turn your phones on. And before we can close things, we have one more person at the mic. Okay, take it away.
Thank you, Dale.
You're welcome.
I didn't hear you say that was going to be the end. I'm intrigued because I've heard now twice the term checks and balances from this esteemed body, and I've written it 100 times in the last 10 years. My good friend Ben Roloff, as a historian, and myself have a better understanding than how we came to be than perhaps anybody easily in the room and perhaps in all of Sun City. And it was checks and balances. It was a relationship between the board and the membership and the management that worked in concert with one another, and everybody had an opportunity. Everybody had an opportunity. The members used to have 4 quarterly memberships a year. And those quarterly membership meetings needed a quorum of 100. And 100 people could show up if the board did something foolish, and they could raise an issue. As John pointed out, they in fact did. When they talked about Quail Run going away, they showed up and they let board know, don't do that. And it quickly died. And in fact, if you look at the history of our community, in the 80s, the most tumultuous time ever, they did things that were in concert, even though they were fighting. It was always about finding solutions. And I can't point to one time, maybe Ben can, but I can't point to one time where the membership ever did anything to screw Sun City. Never, not once. So we can pretend that that happens, but it didn't. Committees used to have a more integral voice in this. And then we saw communities dissolved and changed and evolved to a point. I'm hoping I'm going to hear from Mr. Cook before the end of the year how we're coming on the fitness equipment, the trial that was proposed. Mm-hmm. Because where did that come from?
Long-range planning.
Long-range planning. Ideally, committees are the voice, the backbone, the body. I have not said one word to anybody about the ad hoc committee because I want to see what they do. That's the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't distrust anybody, but you got to prove to me. You show me. We made 5 motions, all of them logical, all of them steeped in a historical perspective of how Sun City was for 50 years until somebody decided it should change, where the checks and balances of the membership would just go away. If you're trying to bring it back, good on you. We'll see when those documents come out. The classic example is golf. You stamped it, what? Completed. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to misstate something, but if I go to your list, golf is completed. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about golf. You heard a gentleman stand up and say, I couldn't get on a bowling alley because somebody out there was taking it from me. And the answer was, we're going to fix that. Right answer. Because members first. Members matter. They always have, they always should. I will tell you, Dale, as you guys sit there, 30 to 50 tee times, primetime tee times are going to people living in Peoria, Surprise, and Glendale. And you elected to do nothing about it. You said we need it because we need the money. It's going to be $300K. You voted, you gave management the ability to increase the cost of that to $250 on the pass. You know what that resulted in? more passes sold in July of this year than July of last year. And in 2021, you sold more full play golf passes to outside residents than ever in our history. Twice as many as the year before, and it's still increasing because it's the best deal in town. Why do they come in and bowl here? Because it's the best deal in town. Why do they come here and golf? Because it's the best deal in town. I would be the last person in the world to say don't take outside golfers in, but you can never, 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 never give them rights ahead of the members. Cheaper rates than the members. Never. Thank you.
Well, first of all, Bill, I just want to say they don't have cheaper rates than the members. Secondly,
don't say that, Dale.
Just let me finish. You had the mic. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Okay.
Don't lie to me, though, please.
You know, one of the things you mentioned at the beginning is that nothing was ever brought forward that was a detriment to this organization. And that I have to respectfully disagree with you.
I'm listening.
Because there was a small group of people who combined and got 300, 400 proxies apiece, and they wanted to change this community into under the Planned Community Act. It was a lawsuit. Well, you're talking about a quorum of 100, and you're complaining about a quorum of whatever it is today? Under a Plans Community Act, it would be 10% of the population.
And
That's not in the best interests of this community, you know, and we fought against that. There's a lot of things. So sometimes, you know, it's not so black and white as you would like it to be, you know, but I think that everybody up here puts a lot of time and effort and tries to the best of their ability to do what's good for RCSC and what's good for the members.
You just told me, you made a statement. We could debate Ann Randall Stewart's motion and lawsuit, and I lived through it for 20 years. I understand. Correct. I have all the records, by the way, if you want them, from Norm Dixon. But it's immaterial because it never came to pass. Nothing changed at a board meeting. Nothing changed by a motion from them. A lawsuit happened. Mm-hmm. But you just made a statement to me that a golfer from outside of these walls cannot golf on our courses cheaper than a member. Do you really mean that?
I believe that's true. Is that not true?
You cannot compare a prepaid pass to a non-prepaid pass.
Why not,
rate.
Bill?
Because prepaid passes are an advantage to us, and therefore they're discounted.
Members, Bill.
Now, if you go pass to pass, outside play versus member, it's not true. Now, if somebody plays an exorbitant amount of rounds, there are people that buy those prepaid passes. They're going to get a lower rate on average than a member who doesn't buy a pass who comes in off the street. Okay, you continually tell us that that golf has to be self-sustaining. We could get rid of outside play, but then that's not going to happen. We'll be farther and farther away from self-sustaining, and then the membership will have to pay for that. So we can either allow outside play, which all golf courses in similar communities to us in the West Valley do, or we can raise our prices to membership and get rid of outside play. So there's other things that happen too. They buy beer and snacks and things like that. People from outside play are spending considerably more because they're buying Sun City hats. They want the shirt that says Sun City on it. So we're getting this revenue. So I have to find a fine line to make sure that we're not raising rates for members. And I think most golfers understand that outside play is a necessary evil, as you guys see it, because we're keeping membership rates lower.
Please don't ever mischaracterize what I believe about golf. I don't think golf outside play is bad. And in fact, outside play is a benefit to this community. Full play passes, the 150 plus that you've sold, and they play for $20 a round, plus they get a cart, and then they let their friend jump in the cart. They're paying $250 a round for a cart when I'm going to pay $12.
So we're looking at pricing. We want to do this in a controlled manner. We actually have I meet with other GMs in the area on a quarterly basis, and we talk about pricing.
How much is a full play pass?
One of the courses raised their pass to a point, and they did it too much. And they went from, I don't know how many passes, down to almost next to zero. So we're doing it in a controlled manner. Yeah, we raised it $250. We're going to see what happens. If we continue to see, a high buy rate, then we'll raise it again next year, or we'll raise it again in first quarter. We did it in August. We raised it. So we're trying to see what the results there are. I have to run a business that tries to make sure that's our goal, is to make sure that the members, okay, in whole, okay, are made, that are treated as members, right?
Bill,
so we're trying to do that.
Bill, with all due respect to you, and I mean this because you're new, you're not running a business, you're running a community. And the community comes before anybody living outside these walls. They have from the day Del Webb built the first house till today.
So the membership is my prime
owners
is
here.
my prime
We're the owners of the community.
focus. The membership is my prime focus. It's my staff's prime focus, and I would challenge anybody to say that I have done nothing, or my staff has done nothing, or the 426 employees that we have here have done nothing but to try and make sure that we serve this membership.
I'm not saying that.
There's nothing that we haven't done.
I'm not saying that. I'm going to ask you a question. Can you? And I want you to answer me honestly, okay? If I buy a full play pass, live in Peoria, 45-year-old, buy the full play pass, and I want to golf with a group of 30 or more residents, small group rate, can I buy the upcharge and get prime time tee times without having to go through the lottery?
I don't know that.
So the answer is yes.
Of course it is. I know that.
Okay.
So what does that tell you? That every resident sitting in this room that golfs, that steps on a golf course, puts their name in the lottery, is now overridden by somebody living in Peoria. Does that not resonate as something wrong?
Well, again, if somebody is going to pay $2,750, we have to also honor that as well. We can't just say, hey, thanks for your $2,750, and then treat them, without some kind of respect.
I understand that, but you can't keep selling them, because if you prolong, it's a year contract. I've read it 100 times.
We're also looking at, decreased cart rate, or we're increasing our cart rates for outside play, right? So we're doing it we're looking at our whole pricing structure. So we're reacting, we're looking at it. But I think, if we look at the numbers, I think the membership overall, I think, are pretty happy with the quality of our golf courses and with, getting tee times, et cetera.
I've got members sending me emails that say they go down and book a tee time in January at Sun City Country Club because they can't get on our course because the full play passes and the small groups are taking all the tee times. I have people that tell me that people from Sun City Grand come over here and buy a full play golf pass because they can get on our courses and they can't get on theirs because their full play pass is $4,000. We don't need to cater to outside people. If they want to come in and golf, you know better than I, and I know this. Sun City West sells a ton of outside golf. But they sell it after residents have had first option, and they sell it at a premium price, and people are happy to pay it.
Well,
because we're cheaper than everybody else in town.
We can compare us to Sun City West, but, if we want to look at it from a financial perspective.
I don't.
Well, we should. We have to.
It's $300K, Bill.
I don't want to raise rates for members, so I'm trying to offset that. So, sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Can we ask?
Can I just make one comment? Sure. This is obviously a concern for us in the golf division. I mean, we listen. I will be 55 here in March. I'm in a rental home right now because I myself am looking to move into Sun City. I love it here. Yesterday was my 12-year anniversary of being an employee here. I take as prideful as you guys are where I want to be when I retire, and I'm looking forward to that. When it comes to our green fees for our residents and tee times especially, that outside pass, that is going to take up 3.6% of those tee times. I've done that math. When it comes to not being able to get a tee time, and I look at the overall picture, when our tee times are full, and I see on a regular basis when our residents have booked tee times for 5 players and they continually show up with 3 players or 4 players or book it for they don't want to play with other people, the biggest problem that we're not getting available tee times is because people, our own residents, are booking that tee time for 5 or 2 groups of 10 or 3 groups of 15 and only bringing 6, 8, 10 players, members to come out and play in those tee times.
And you're dealing with that. I've read that. And kudos to you. So here's the challenge, obviously, is you've got to try and figure it out. And I heard the 3.6. I did the math. It's 10,000 rounds last year. You sold 8,600 rounds through July to non-resident passes this year. Through July. That'll put you at somewhere between 12 and 13,000. You want to break it up, you can do the math as well as I can. It's 32 rounds a day at 12,000. 32 rounds that somebody living outside our walls are taking from members. Now, not in the summer, but summer rounds drop off. You know that, I know that. It's November through April that matter. You want to give tee times away in the summer? Everybody does. But come January 1, February 1, members first. Guys, if you understand nothing else, we're a community. We're the owners. We're not card holders. We're the owners of this community. We have a responsibility. We have an obligation just like you all do. And unless or until you understand that, we're going to keep selling to people living in Peoria or Surprise, and that's just wrong.
And if I'm privileged enough to be a resident here, and I have 3 players in my group, I would love to play with you. I would love to play with anybody in this community. The problem is that our own residents don't want to play with anybody else, and they will book it for 5 and only show up with 3. Those tee times are not being utilized. That is a big hindrance on us in the golf division, trying to make sure that our residents have those available tee times, but they themselves are booking it to where no other residents can get those tee times. That's a big problem that I hope that we can get to.
And I know you're dealing with that, but the 150 passes are the 150 passes. If you don't stop selling them, they're just going to keep playing and keep coming up because it's the cheapest golf in town.
Thank you, and we respect your opinion. I just would like to add one last comment before we close the meeting. Oh, not yet.
I really dislike speaking in public, so
Okay.
it will be very short.
Okay.
My member number is 112341. You can tell by my voice I don't like this. You feel we distrust you. There is a reason we all distrust you, and I'm speaking pretty much for all of us. You've made us distrust you. At the very first meeting, you said you wanted to get along, and we're all trying. We all live here. Today, I spoke to 2 board members that scowled at me. I mean, could they say good morning? No. Let's all try to get along. That's all I'm asking. Whether it's that side or this side, we shouldn't be sides. We need to get along. Let's try to agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else? This is my 3rd time at bat on this. Just one last comment. Management staff, this is to you. You need to run this like a business, because if you don't, it's going to cost these people more money. Okay. There being no further business and without objection, this meeting will be adjourned. Don't forget to turn your phones back on. Thank you. See you in the end of the month.
Written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.